Hi, I'm Dennis McDonald. This is A1 Telephone Service and Repair, A1 Electronics. This is on a Radio Shack 2-line telephone. I wasn't going to do a second video on it, and then I thought, well, I might. And show you a little bit about what's going on. The most important thing that I wanted to show you was, we said in the first part that this modular port for the handset cord, the prongs were all bent up. I don't know that you can see inside here very well, but these prongs are all bent up, and somehow they got the original cord to this. They took it off and got rid of it or whatever. This was just a 2-conductor modular handset cord, and it has to be a 4-conductor. As you can see, the different color wires, there's a yellow, a green, a black, and a red. And I guess the most important thing I wanted to tell you was, I've seen people do this in the past, and I've probably even done it in the past, and that's why I'm pretty careful about it. I've been up to this for a long time. I've been doing this a long time, so you can get these mixed up. Okay, these, for one thing, are getting very hard to find. If a guy wants to repair something and he just wants to locate one of these modular ports for either the line cord or the handset cord, they're getting very hard to find. I have a supply of them because I've been I've saved things over the years and bought stuff up. But if you're just a guy out there trying to repair his phone, you may pay a lot for a whole bunch of these, and you may not need a whole bunch of them. And just one of them might cost you quite a bit. They're getting hard to find. They don't really use them too much anymore. So, but anyway, on to what we were talking about. You want to make sure when you look at the back of this. Now, if I had, this one just happens to be, the one I'm going to use, the good one, just happens to be the same color code. If you notice here, the yellow is on this side, and the red is on the other side. The green is on the bottom. Let me see here. Sure enough, the green is on the bottom, and then the black is on the left of that. And just because these two happen to match up does not mean that I might pull one of these as a part from another phone. The yellow and red could be swapped around. Well, if you don't pay attention to what you're doing, what can happen is you'll follow the color codes like most people would, and then you'll get it together and you'll say, what happened? It doesn't work right. Well, that's because you got to make sure that this color code matches this color code. And if it doesn't, you just simply go to, like, this could be yellow on this one, and it might be green here on this one. You just put the green on the yellow. I mean, you just follow where the holes are at. So, believe me, I've seen it happen where you get it switched around. So what we're going to do is, right now, I'm just going to show you a little soldering. If you work on electronics every day, this is probably not for you. If you're just interested in electronics and maybe just dabble in it once in a while, this might be interesting to you. First, you want to get a little solder on your soldering gun. You want to tin the wires, okay? Just tin the wires up. Then we're going to move over here real quick, and we're going to tin these wires up. Get these guys out here where you can see them. Just get a little bit on your solder gun. Tin them up real quick. I'll tell you, another thing that you might want to pay attention to is we just take this heat shrink, okay? You can buy this heat shrink. Some people don't use it, they use tape. But, you know, for a more professional look, it's nice to have some heat shrink around. And all you want to do is you want to drop your heat shrink on each little wire. And it makes for a more professional kind of a connection. And it looks better. You could tape all these, and we certainly did in the old days. We taped them all the time. But you want to make sure that when you put your heat shrink on these wires, that you don't get the heat shrink so close to where you're soldering that the heat shrink won't go over your solder joint and cover your bare wire when you're working. So you want to, I mean, in some tight areas, you know, you can get the heat shrink pretty close, but you don't want to be on the solder too long, or you'll close up your heat shrink. So if you get a chance, just pull it back as far as you can and don't let it come back on you. And you just put a clip across that, see? And then what you want to do is you want to pick out your wires. Since we already know that our wiring is the same, then all we have to do is just solder it up. I like to put a little solder on my gun. Naturally, you want to keep these wires, try to keep them apart. They're, you know, when you're working on electronics, you need about 15, 16 hands. But since we don't have that, then you do what you can do. They make all kinds of gadgets to hold stuff when you're soldering things. But basically what it comes down to is they're fine. You can use them. They're little brackets that hold stuff and that. But, you know, they just kind of get in your way, really. Well, let me try to get these wires where we can see them and get to them. You just kind of got to learn to fight with these little things like this, because these wires can be pesky little guys. They'll get away from you. So, now that we've got it all soldered up, basically we just want to take a look at our solder. You know, if you got anything that protrudes a little bit, you can always give it a little snip. And then, not everybody needs to do this, but I like to do this. I like to take a final look at what we got here. You know, make sure that that we're looking at everything, kind of like the old measure twice, cut once theory. You know, look it over a little bit, make sure you're where you want to be. Everything seems fine. They're the same kind of plug. This one's all tore up and bent up inside. But you know, I don't suggest most people do this, but I like to sometimes adjust these. And if you have a real fine pair of needle nose tweezers, you can adjust these little prongs here. I mean, anybody can do it, but you know, it helps to have a little experience of where these belong. They want to be sitting about 40 to 45 degrees in here. You don't want them out too far, but yet you don't want them down too far. So, you know, when they're sitting like this, you know, a good 45 degree angle, you know. So when you look in there, those pins should be at one height. You don't want a couple of the pins way down and then a couple of pins way up. You want them to be, you want them to kind of sit pretty close like each other. Now, this is the modular handset cord that is no good, but I'm going to plug it in there anyway. Okay, it locks. Good. Okay, so we know that is fine. I've got to shut the video down, so goodbye now, and thank you for watching.